think the difference between Africa and all the other countries we have traveled to in our life is that Africa, once you get there, you're submerged in Africa. There's no there's no internet, there's no phones, there's no TVs. These camps that we travel to, granted they're luxury camps and you have all the amenities and the people are just at your call, whatever you want to do. But other than that, our family, we took our 4 kids and we took their wives and husbands to be, and so we just had the best time ever because we only talked about animals and safari, and we played a couple of times Monopoly and some card games in the evening. But other than that, there was no checking your iPhone and your iPad, and there was no emails checking, so it was just wonderful. To me, that was the best.
And every day was an adventure. To be, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, having breakfast with your family, and then getting into a car, and then like going out and not knowing what was going to be ahead of us, and just the kids looking around and everybody being in tune to, is there an animal over here, an animal over there, and then the excitement when we do see an animal, and just the conversations afterwards, and all the pictures that we get to take, and the stories we get to tell. It's just the greatest.
When you just said getting up 5 o'clock in the morning, normally the young kids our age, nowadays, they don't want to get up at 5 in the morning. And we would be out there having breakfast in the lodge and waiting for everybody, and they would all be there at 5 o'clock. They're all ready to go, and
all ready to go,
and telling stories, what animals they heard at night, what monkeys bounced in their tent, and I just thought it was awesome.
Yeah, we have friends that we've asked to get their families together and go to Africa, older children, and they call us and say, our kids don't want to go, they don't want to go, and we're like, oh, make your kids go, because once they get there, the whole family experience is beyond anything you could ever imagine. It's just spectacular. Everybody has to do Africa. All families, kids.
I think that now the trip has passed and we sit together and we talk about Africa, and it's not like every Africa trip is different. You see different kills, you see different animals, you have different experiences. An elephant goes through your camp, or a leopard comes over, and so it's not like going to Rome or to Paris where you say, well, I've seen the Eiffel Tower, but everybody else that had been there saw exactly the same thing, and it was a good experience and everything. But Africa just is different. It's a little bit like scuba diving, because every time you go underwater, you see something totally different. So.
And the people are so beautiful in South Africa, East Africa, where we've been. Every person that we've ever met, or any driver, any person in the hotel that we stayed at, they're just so beautiful from the inside out. It's just been so enjoyable to share stories, and even go out on a safari with them, and them, the excitement that they get, and they live there, and they do that every single day, and they still just get chills and excitement and tears in their eyes when they see an amazing thing, and you can't get there.
I never once felt like a tourist there.
Never.
And I know they go through this. They do these game drives every day. You spend 2-3 days with them, and then you move on. But then another group comes, whatever, and you don't feel like they were as excited in the mornings as we were. And you could really tell. The little warm bottles they brought and all these things. So it was cool.
The word that describes Africa is amazing. Just everything is, when you watch TV or the Animal Planet, or anything, you get this idea about Africa. You don't think that when you go there, it's actually going to be exactly like you see on TV. It is. Like, everything is so untouched and so, natural and raw and just amazing. It's phenomenal. That's Africa to me. And
yeah, the whole scenery, the animals, it's like there are no words to describe it,
right?
Because the TV doesn't do it justice.
It doesn't do it justice. It's what you would think, but the TV doesn't do it justice.
Because everything, like what you see on TV, times it by 100.
Yeah, actually experiencing it is it's a whole nother thing.
The adrenaline inside.
The adrenaline, hearing lions roar is the most insane thing. Like, you wouldn't think, you would expect something, but when you get there, it's
It's so hard to explain.
Yeah.
Like your insides are shaking, and you want to find more, and you want more adrenaline running. It's just, it's crazy.
When we first got there, you want to get over your jet lag, so we went to Victoria Falls. Didn't do any game drives there. Saw some animals already. I mean, it's Africa, so there's animals everywhere. I remember the first elephant we saw, and we spent an hour with that guy.
After our ride, they had rescued a cheetah.
Yeah, it was a domesticated cheetah. And
the coolest thing ever.
awesome. It's funny because it's just like a big cat, you know? And that's literally what it is. But it purrs, and
when it licks you,
you can go up and pet it. It's just
it would lick your arm, and it felt like you're rubbing
like sandpaper
on
almost.
it. It had the
really
craziest
rough tongue. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But yeah, she.
Just being able to pet it, and we took pictures with it, and it was the coolest thing ever.
It had a trainer. Would you call it a trainer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had a trainer with it, but I mean, still, it was, you know, I think it had only been like in captivity for.
It was only a year old.
Yeah, a year, and it was really fresh and still really wild, and you just got that that feeling inside, like, oh my God, this is a wild animal, and this is something you can't do.
The paws on him.
The paws were
insane. The back paws, because they're like, don't get behind him, because you know what they do is, I guess they go and they kick you. like I don't even know.
Right.
But the paws on that thing were huge.
Yeah.
So the first night that we got there, we were able to go on what you would call a booze cruise. So we were on a huge boat. Everyone was all excited. You know, it was nice because we had been flying and traveling so much to be able to just sit and kind of kick back, have some drinks and some appetizers, and float down this beautiful river that feeds into the Victoria Falls. And we ended up being able to see some hippos, we saw crocodiles on that, and it was really special because there's a picture in your mind when you think about Africa, these sunsets, views, and that night we were able to experience our first African sunset, and it was the most spectacular. The colors, and it just set the trip up right, you know. It was perfect.
So Victoria Falls, you know, they warn you, because you can see at our first resort, you can see the Victoria Falls from miles away. But you get there and there's all these guys coming up to you trying to sell you these ponchos and umbrellas, and you're like, well, do I really need this? They're like, yeah, sure, you know. So we all buy our umbrellas, and some people had ponchos on, and we get walking up there, and at first it wasn't as bad, you know, the umbrellas did something, and then as we went further on to the deeper into the falls, it's pouring rain. By the end of it, ponchos, umbrellas did nothing.
Right.
Soaking wet.
Crazy.
And then we got across to the first camp, Chobe, and that was kind of cool. It was a luxury 5-star camp. Had a great time there. It was amazing. On the last night there, we had this beautiful dinner by the river down there, by the Okawanga, and it was just great. And then one of the waiters said, you know, there's a warthog underneath the table over there. And I go, well, that's impossible. So I got up and I walked over there, and there's this humongous warthog just snoring quite loud underneath the buffet table where we got our food and everything. And I mean,
It's wild.
You know, it's a wild pig, isn't it? I mean, it could be dangerous, you would think, but it wasn't at all. So that was a great experience. That's how we started out. And then the next day the planes came in. And that saved us 7-8 hours worth of driving, because these planes come in, they swoop you up, and an hour later you're landing at some little airstrip, and you're in a completely different area suddenly. The second one was the elephant camp, and that was also incredible. We had a little room where literally, I mean, the elephants were right there, and there was a water hole, so all day and all night there was elephants. That was just incredible. They're luxury camps. I mean, I liked the second one the best. It was luxurious and nice. We had this huge room.
So at one of the camps, it was known as the Leopard Resort, and we're sleeping, and it was one of the resorts that they had to escort you back to your rooms, and then they would pick you up in the morning and escort you back to the main lodge. Well, we're sleeping in our tent, and you hear all the birds and the monkeys going on all night, and all of a sudden, like, I wake up and I hear this, like, I hear all the birds and the commotion, but I hear this thing like rubbing up against our tent, and I'm like I wake Chris, and I'm like, Chris, what is that? And it got really loud, and at one point it was on our roof and like scratching, and well, we had one window, and I'm like, Chris, go see what it is. So he goes and opens the window and kind of looks over, and sure enough, it's a leopard right outside.
Just literally 2 feet away. And the only thing that's separating me from this leopard is, you know, just like a little, like cabin wall. It was surreal.
I'm like, freaking out, obviously, girl. But all of a sudden, like, we hear it. It jumped onto our tent and then jumped on the tree and caught a bird. And you know, we heard all that, so we knew what was going on. And then all of a sudden,
guinea fowl, and
it was on our front porch, just eating it.
I think these guinea fowl like stay in little packs, and you could tell when the leopard was rushing it, because it would just be like,
yeah.
And the pack would like move, and it was happening for like an hour, and all of a sudden it just stopped, and you know what happened.
Yeah.
You know. And
the next morning, the guy comes to get us, and we walk outside, and there's feathers
everywhere. Prints,
and he's like, "You guys had a leopard out here," and we're like, "Yep, up all night."
That definitely
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! You know, we followed this leopard. The grass is pretty tall, and we were kind of like
we get little glimpses of it.
Glimpses, and then we all stopped our cars, and then the leopard stopped. And then all of a sudden he started coming out towards the trucks, and literally we're talking 2.5 feet. He crawled up on a log and sat there and literally looked at every car for a photo shoot, basically. I think we all got thousands of pictures of this, so close to the leopard, and he just allowed us to take 1,000 pictures of him, and just the most unbelievable pictures that we got of him. And then after about 10 or 15 minutes, he went on.
He went on, and you couldn't see him anymore.
And that was the best part of the whole trip.
We saw another leopard as we were going to the airport. And of course, these drivers and Ascaris, they see these animals. I mean, you would never know it's a leopard there. Suddenly he stopped and goes, there's a leopard right over there. And we kept on looking and looking and looking, and finally he moved a tiny bit and we could see him because he was so camouflaged. But I mean, a leopard can be 3 feet from you and you wouldn't see it. And the fact that this leopard came out and just sat on the tree and just let us take pictures of him, and I think he just basically said, look guys, I know what you're here for.
That's right.
I'm going to take care of this.
Yeah. Sure. It was a godsend experience.
Coming from someone who didn't have a camera the entire trip, it was easy to acknowledge the fact that the drivers were very aware of making sure that everyone with the camera on in the car got the picture that they wanted, and it wasn't until everyone had their pictures that we moved on, which sometimes got a little annoying when you were waiting around for everyone to get the picture that they wanted. But at the end of the day, when we all sat around the table and shared the pictures that we got from that day and looked at how many incredible shots that we were going to have coming home from the trip, it really made it worth it for the entire group.
When we went to this, what was it, the elephant camp, and this guy said, well, you can't really walk alone to your cabin. And the cabin is like, from here to there, it's like 50 yards. And I'm going, yeah, whatever, of course. It's like Disneyland. So we walked to our cabin, and then he goes, well, what time do you want me to pick you up so you can come up for breakfast or for dinner? I said, well, it's 7 o'clock. So at 7 o'clock he was there. And we started walking back the 50 yards in the other direction. And he suddenly stopped and goes, there's leopard tracks. And I go, well, you just got here, so obviously the leopard tracks were there when you walked to the room. He goes, no, it just came. And we're, well, that's impossible, correct? And he goes, oh, look over there, the leopard. And we're like 25 feet away from a leopard who just happened to walk in the camp. So then we went back up to the bar, and I went over the whole briefing one more time, took it more serious.
Well, there's a lot of conservation going on. So a lot of schools, they do a lot of things for schools and the animals, which I thought that was really fascinating. So we went on an elephant ride, and afterwards, when we got back, this high school class was there, and then they were teaching them why the elephants were in captivity and what they do to preserve them. And all these young kids get hands-on experience learning about the elephants. And I think they also had a cheetah in this little camp. And then afterwards we all got to feed the elephants, and
that was kind of cool.
Like get really close to them. And
Here.
You avoid teasing them by giving them 1 or 2 pellets at a time. As you can see, these are huge animals. They deserve a lot more, so give them a lot. And for pellets that will fall to the ground, you don't pick them up. When the elephants are gone, the warthogs and baboons will come in and clean up the place for you, so don't pick up pellets from the ground. This is what you do. Watch me. All right? Assuming you're on Janet, you would walk up to her and you put them into the trunk. Okay? Alternatively,
Yeah, do the other one now too. Look at that. Do the trunk up one.
trunk up one. Right, you watch me. Emily, trunk up. Okay, so you can either do the trunk up or trunk down. Go ahead. Let's spread around. We've got buckets all over the place.
Okay.
Sorry.
When I was riding Janet.
Janet.
Oh. Do you like that?
Wait, oh, are you getting pictures, Michael?
Yes. Is this?
Okay.
Trunk up.
Yeah, I want to do
Trunk up?
Joe.
Oh, wait.
Trunk up.
Oh, gotta be kidding me. Love this.
Gracious. I think I'm so short. Trunk up. Hey! Okay, trunk up. Trunk up. Trunk up. Yeah.
That is the coolest.
Do it, you do it. You do it right now.
I'm sorry. I have to do it again.
Can you hold it for me? Sure. Thank you.
He prefers it that way. He prefers it in the hole.
What are you doing?
Trunk up. Watch this. And Myra, listen. A big guy needs more food. Trunk up.
Trunk up, Jake. Trunk up. Trunk up. Super.
You're a good guy. Yeah, we love trunk up.
Trunk up, Jake. Jake, trunk up. Jake, trunk up.
Okay.
I thought it was so cool every night, like when we did the afternoon safaris, they would bring out, you know, our cider or wine or whatever, and you just kind of sat. Remember that?
Yeah, a
And
little
then it was
tea
really
time.
cool.
Yeah,
And then
tea
tea
time.
time.
Cocktail
A little
tea time
break.
out of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it has that sort of English influence there still. You know, that old, you know, sort of luxury, classy feel everywhere you went. It was that, you know, this tea time experience with the drinks and like the little food things that we had.
English, yeah.
Yeah. So that one resort we stayed at, wasn't that old English tents that yeah, old English hunting tents. They were hunting tents that they turned into the resort.
I think too, after we've been on the safaris, and then they would just drive us out into the open fields and set up a beautiful little table.
And then when the elephant gets too close, okay, everyone back in the car,
Yeah.
back in the car.
It's cool too because as the days go on and as the more drives that you do go on, because you see different kinds of animals all the time. At first, like we were scared that like the antelopes were right outside the car.
Yeah, right.
But as the days go on, we got more and more comfortable because we realized how safe it was to be in the cars. And
Yeah.
I think that was, you know, that helped too.
Right.
To feel a little more safe.
Right, for sure.
I thought it was so cool too. It was like the last morning at our first camp, and we had seen the lions and the elephants and everything, and we were driving. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning, still dark out, and our driver's like, "Hey, what do we want to see today?" And Dad, you were like,
Well, I
said, what's the
remember I said, what's the rarest animal
Oh, yeah,
you see here? What's your
her.
favorite? And she goes, hunting dogs. And no sooner did she say it, we came around this turn,
and there was
hunting dogs.
eating something, or crickets.
Yeah, remember, and she got on the radio, and
And then the owl came right after
Yeah.
that and started taking
Like a
his
really
share.
rare owl.
the largest
So,
owl.
yeah.
It
Do you remember the vultures the first day we were there?
The vouchers?
The vouchers.
The vouchers. Animal vouchers. What do they call that?
Yeah, what are they called?
Vouchers.
The what?
The voucher!
Mario, Caitlin, and I, and Werner went on a little boat cruise thing in the bayou, like swamp area. In where was it? Uganda? Well, not Uganda. Botswana. So we're in this thing in Botswana, and we're asking the boat captain, look, you gotta tell us how to find hippos. Like, you're telling us how dangerous they are and they attack everybody, but how do you make sure that that's not happening? He's like, well, one, you gotta make sure that you're never in between water and a hippo. So if you're on land and the hippo's on land, you can't be in between the water and the hippo. That's one way. Another way is you can't get too close to them in the water because they get really defensive and they could attack you. We're like, well, how do you know if they're gonna attack you? He goes, well, normally you see bubbles because they walk on the ground, and then when they walk on the ground, these bubbles come up. We go, okay. So we see some hippos, and he hauls right towards the hippo, and the hippo like dives under. And we're having this conversation again, like, tell us about these bubbles. He goes, well, when they walk on the bottom, because they don't swim, the bubbles come up. And we're looking around, and there's bubbles like everywhere. There's bubbles everywhere. And we ask him, well, how do you know which bubbles are the bad bubbles? Because there's bubbles all over the place. And of course, it's from the hippo who's underneath our boat, ready to pounce and attack us. So he's reversing a little bit, and right as everyone is looking forward, because that's where the hippo went under, Mario, Caitlin, and I look back and see this hippo jump out of the water, mouth open, breaching, coming at the boat, trying to attack us. And of course, at that point, we hauled ass out of there. But that was pretty interesting. That was an interesting morning.
So after the hippo experience, we thought we'd lay low for the rest of the day because we kind of realized we got lucky with that one, and we decided to play some Monopoly at the lodge. So me, Justin, and Caitlin were sitting there while everyone else was still on their boat trip, and we see a antelope type thing. It was called a water bugs, just sprint through the camp. And we see these animals, all the time throughout the trip. So at this point, we were kind of like, oh, whatever, another antelope just sprinting through our camp. But the guides knew immediately that the antelopes don't run that fast through the camp. There's obviously something chasing it. But we were too into the Monopoly game to take note to anything like that. So all of a sudden, one of the guides runs out and goes, there's wild dogs out in front of the camp. And we're like, wild dogs, holy crap. So we run out there, and there's 5 wild dogs just sitting at the entrance of our campsite. And we're like, oh wow. And by the time there was, some of the camp guides out there, and me, Caitlin, and Justin were out there, and the dogs got spooked and ran away. But one of the guides said, hey, let's jump in one of the cars and follow them, maybe we'll see something cool. So we're all excited, our heart's still beating from the hippo attack, and now we're going to watch some wild dogs do something crazy. So we all jump in the car, we're going through rivers trying to find these wild dogs where they ran off to. Couldn't find them anywhere, and by this time, they've radioed almost all the cars on the whole reservation, and everyone's looking for these wild dogs. Looking for about 10 minutes, and we called it quits. We went back to the camp. Someone radioed us. Oh, they saw the glimpse of them. Went back out. Finally, 20 minutes go by. No wild dogs anywhere. About to call it quits. All of a sudden, this antelope-looking reindeer comes jumping through the bushes, and all of a sudden, the pack of wild dogs are right behind it. And we saw it firsthand. They just took this thing down. You're not supposed to go off the road with your car, and this thing happened probably 15 yards off the road. And I looked at my driver and I said, I will give you $20 US to drive the car right next to this animal getting torn apart. And he looked and he hesitated for a second. He turns the vehicle and just goes, and all the other guides are yelling at him because he's not supposed to be doing that. But hey, we were right next to this animal just getting torn apart. And I'm not kidding you, the smell and the experience and how your heart was just racing watching these, because these things don't take their time at all. They eat and are out of there. and it was like nothing we've ever thought we'd see, wanted to see, but we saw it, and it was awesome.
Best trip of my life. Easily, hands down, best trip of my life.
I've already told my friends that are my age, because we are so blessed to have been able to go on this trip at this time of our life, because it is something that we will have in our
forever.
This memory of our trip, being with my entire family and being able to experience this whole trip, there's nothing that can even describe it.
There's no words.
I'm telling my friends now, like,
Europe and
start saving. Everyone needs to go to Africa once in their life, at least.
Yeah, Africa is a whole different beast, I guess you could say. And,
I mean, but it's completely different from the underwater experience. Like, it's nothing.
Right.
There's no words. Everyone needs to go to Africa.
It's awesome.
Well, the Africa trip was very amazing. The first safari we went on was an elephant safari. It was a great way to start the trip off. We all hopped on these humongous elephants, and they took us out into the bush. It was a nice way to start off the trip because, you know, any animal we saw was just incredible, even though we later found out that we'll be seeing those animals every day, all day.
We're going out looking for the lions because we heard that there's lions, and I see, like, you know, 50 yards away, there's these little things on the ground, and I'm like, what the heck were they? So I asked the driver to turn around, and sure enough, it was these 6 cubs. They weren't, like, you know, little tiny ones, but actually, yeah, they kind of were. But 6 baby cubs, and I guess what happens, the female lions, they leave the cubs there because they're not trained to go hunt, and so they leave them in one spot, and I guess the adults all go off and hunt. So we hung out with the cubs for a little bit, and it was really cool, but now we're like, okay, where's the pack of lions?
Right, and the thing is, if you want to find them, the #1 thing you look for are the giraffes, because the giraffes...
Yeah, they're all looking in the one direction.
And you can see giraffes, you know, they're tall and stuff, so they sit there and they do not move. They stare directly at the lion. So wherever the giraffes are staring, you know that's where the lions are going to be. And
so we're
that was
the
like
cubs,
the indicator.
And all the giraffes are out here, and they're all looking that way. So we're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, that's where they're at. And
so sure enough, we found them, and they're all kind of hanging out, like, underneath in the shade, and they're just 5 feet away from you. And again, TV doesn't do it justice. These things
they're huge.
Huge.
If they were to stand on their back
half
legs,
the size of a car, and we're just 5 feet away.
Easily like 7 feet if they were to stand on their back legs, you know?
And you know,
huge.
They look at you with those eyes, and they kind of like creep down, and you're like, this thing's gonna pounce any second.
Right.
But they don't, because the car, they look at it as one huge thing. And as long as you kind of don't move, you're supposed to be very quiet and try not to move.
There's a lion. There's a lion. There's a lion. There's a lion also right there. There's tons of lions. There's lions around.
For someone like myself, I didn't have any expectations, nor was it ever on my bucket list, which I know that it's on a ton of people's bucket list to go to Africa. Had I known what I saw prior to going, I would have absolutely recommended this trip to anyone and everyone.
It's something special, because when you're going to a place like Africa that's so unknown, and it's almost like daunting, because it's on the other side of the world. How do you get there? Where do you stay? What, you know, the language is there. Everything's different.
For me, the coolest one was when we had to change the tire.
That was the worst thing ever.
Remember, we found all these lions.
Lots of lions.
We should legitimately started crying.
Risha panicked.
Blacked out.
Are you guys kidding me?
You panicked.
That was the worst thing ever.
She was panicking.
I
was panicking. I just didn't show her, but I mean, it was scary.
Scary. You guys were too busy changing the tire, and I was like listening. I had my elephant ears on. I was like, oh my god, they're roaring. They're coming closer.
Talk about how I spotted those lions by the end of its tail. That way. Saw a tail.
Well, then when we needed to see them, no one could see them. We could only hear them roaring in the bushes.
You know, every guide should have a gun or some sort of weapon to protect you. And their philosophy is, you know, you can't have guns, because then if you have a gun, you're more likely to use the gun, which I understand. But in this type of situation, it's nice to know that at least if we had to use the gun, it was there because there's a pack of lions or pride walking towards us in a broken down car, hungry with babies.
And I think they always say you're totally safe if you stay within the car. I mean, like sometimes when these elephants came up to us, and they were literally a foot and a half away from the car, or even lions. Remember when we drove up to and you would go, all the lion has to do is just jump inside the car and he can have a meal. But for some reason they don't. They see, well, when you get out of the car, you're moving around and trying to change the tire.
They think of you as one big, solid figure instead of just...
But of course, if you're outside the car and you're changing a tire, even if you then jump into the car, the lion would follow you because you're now not part of the car. You're moving, you know.
And they're so fast.
I think for that reason it was kind of scary.
It was a little scary.
Yeah, and you don't help the situation. Once Dad goes, okay, everyone, this is what they do. They surround you and then they charge. So you go here, you borrow this, and then I'm changing the tire. It's like, oh, okay. Might as well just kill me now.
I could not think of a worse way to go down. Death by lion.
I mean, we were mid-tire change when we heard all of them start roaring. And he's like, back in the car, back in the car, back in the car.
The private planes.
The private planes were one of my favorite parts about the whole trip. So you show up at these airports and these tiny, honestly,
dirt roads.
Dirt runway.
Dirt runway.
Just like landing strip, literally. And you know, they're just these it's these tiny buildings, right? It's not like a big airport. And
it's not even buildings. There's like these little signs that were painted like on
And so you're waiting for your plane, you know, and you know, it's crazy. You see it coming in, and you see it land, and it lands. The pilot hops out, and he goes. Propellers are still going.
Load it up.
Yeah, get in the plane. Get in the plane. Got a schedule. And so you get in there, and one of the coolest parts about the whole thing is that the co-pilot seat is open. So that's technically a passenger seat, and you can go sit up there with the pilot, and you don't fly the plane, but you have, you know, right in front of you, you got the joysticks and all the controls, and you're seeing him fly it right next to you. You know, you can talk. It's awesome. It's something you can't describe.
Oh, I thought when they were telling us what the biggest thing about these planes are that wildlife goes onto the thing, and they have to make sure that, you know, an elephant isn't standing there when you're landing. Like we kind of find this out after you take the plane up in the air 2 or 3 times, and you're like coming in and looking for these elephants, you know, making sure they don't run onto the runway anywhere. And I mean, that's pretty scary to think about
how you could be landing. And
yeah, because I was talking to the guide one time, and I was like, so why do you guys wait around? And he's like, oh, we have to make sure that no wildlife gets on, so we can scare them off if they do.
Yeah, that was on the very last time that he told us that. We're driving along, and then there's this little male lion running. We're going, wow, this is kind of great. And then you heard that deep roar of that lion. And we're going, oh my gosh, what's going on?
It's in the tree, it's in the bushes.
It's all over.
And that was fun.
The dead elephant.
Oh yeah, that was.
Seeing that, that was unbelievable.
I mean, that
The lion with the blood all over its
said about the roar, though. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, the roar is the roar.
And you hear it on TV or you hear it wherever, and it doesn't do it justice. Like when you're there, it's insane. Like there's something inside of you that just like rumbles, gets frightened. It's crazy.
You can tell why they're the king, you know? It's like that sound is insane.
Even the television doesn't do it justice because they are huge in person.
Yeah.
Like,
way
They're
bigger.
much bigger than you think.
Yeah.
much bigger.
So you know
You guys thought my mane was big. Those
I know, right? They're out there.
you know what was huge too? Those hyenas that we saw eating the elephant.
yeah.
I didn't know hyenas were that big. I thought hyenas were like,
They're
you know,
so tiny.
Watch
like
a couple
small.
animal planets.
No, but these hyenas are huge. Like Great Dane huge. Like I thought they were nothing compared to a lion, but they're big.
By the way, that's why these hunting dogs eat and constantly look and stare around and then quickly run off because they're on the very bottom of the food
The
chain.
hunting dogs look more like domestic dogs. The
That's
hyenas
right.
are like
Wolves
wolves.
are like wolves.
And then the lions are just
ridiculous.
lions are
Small
lions.
ponies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were lions close to the camp, so we raced back, got in the car, and we found about, 5 young lions and then 5 bigger ones, and we pulled up right next to them, and we couldn't have gotten any closer unless the car was touching them. And that was you know, a real exhilarating experience. Just being able to look at these ginormous animals that you never expect to be so big when you're looking at them on TV, but in person they're, you know, so much bigger, and they smell so much worse than what you'd ever imagine.
So Africa was one of the greatest trips I think I've ever been on in my entire life. You know, we were lucky enough to go with our entire family, and we got to see things that, you know, you only see on Planet Earth or the History Channel or Discovery Channel. It was just absolutely incredible.
The service was
Unbelievable.
like everybody was so nice.
Everyone. Like you think when my dad was telling us about this trip and kind of what to expect, he's like, yeah, we're going to be staying in campsites and tents and all this stuff. And I'm like, we're sleeping in tents? Like what?
Right.
But you get there and it is the most beautiful campsite ever, but it's
the interiors are all well done.
five-star.
Yeah, extremely luxurious. When you walk in the tent, it's like it's not a tent. It's like you're walking into a 5-star resort. And sorry, slapping.
But you still get that kind of outdoor feeling because it's out in the open. You're in the middle of nowhere. The wild animals are all around you. The elephants, the leopards that slept on our porch, like. Just insane thing, but you still get that feeling that you're in the wildlife.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Just canvas walls, and yeah, there's nothing really to describe it other than that. It's just it's pretty amazing.
Anything you want. The service was unbelievable. We had like 2 people in our group that were gluten-free, and they flew gluten-free food for them.
I think one of the best parts is the people there, like, you literally come as a guest and you leave like as a friend.
As a friend,
literally.
exactly.
Like, I think it was Maremi. Was that the camp with the and the.
Yeah, we'd have dinner and have drinks with them later, and then they'd
That
be
was
our
cool.
driver.
Yeah, so your driver would eat dinner with you, and you know you get to kind of meet your driver at dinner, and
they make it really personal.
It's really personal. It's awesome.
And Nicole thought it'd be funny. I mean, you look for leopards, and we were at one point, we're like, all right, we're seeing a leopard today, no matter what happens. Like, I don't care what other animals we see. Lions at this point were obsolete. It was a leopard.
Oh shit, right there in the trees, right there in the trees. Leopard, 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 leopard.
6 hours into this car ride, you're about over seeing any leopard. You just want to go back to the camp. And Nicole thought it'd be funny to cry leopard. And
what? Oh, I gotta get a good shot.
Which tree did you see?
Gotta get a good shot.
Oh, what tree?
Fine, asshole. Right there.
What tree?
Do you see it right there?
What tree?
She's flying.
What was funny about that?
Did you guys see it?
we all thought she was telling the truth, because who would ever do something as stupid as that on a safari?
It's hilarious.
So we're all trying to see the leopard, and then after about 30 seconds of looking into nowhere, she starts dying laughing, and I wanted to feed her the lions right after that.
Yeah.
And they carried
I got you all.
Oh, and then she called all the other cars.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the cars showed
Like
up.
someone sees a leopard. Yeah.
That was hilarious. Making sure you guys are all.
What was funny about that?
Oh, that's so funny! Oh my god.
I was expecting when they said that we were going to stay in camps. I mean, the only thing that, as far as camping that I've done, is like in a tent with like going to the bathroom in the woods, you know. So I didn't know what to expect, and when we got there, it exceeded all of my expectations. It was, each camp again was so unique, particularly to the region that it was in, and the way that the decor and the service, it was just top of the line.
Yeah, the word camp doesn't do it justice, because you automatically think of a camp as this sort of mediocre place that you're just going to sleep, and it's just a spot to be in to do other things. It's just to get by. But these These camps are more like luxury, you know, resorts that are in the middle of nowhere. But I mean, even the physical tent that you're in is this incredible high-end, you know, high-end antique safari tent with the most incredible decor. Everything was just insane, and the service there is always, you know, it's always top-notch.
Safari experience. Our first drive on these cars, you're in like these little like Range Rovers, but you know they changed the entire back of the car to like these 3-seaters, and you're all in there, and literally it's like riding on the Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland because you're hopping and you
yeah, you're bouncing around. Everybody's like, you know, it's open and
yeah, it's totally open. They let you, if we see something really cool, they'll let you like open up the top shades and kind of stand up.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts actually. Was the top actually has a zipper, and you just unzip it, and you can stand on your seat, and it's like you're, I don't know, it's crazy. You know, you're just out there, and it's almost like you're not even in a car.
Yeah, the cars were really cool.
The cars were awesome.
Seriously, the way you go through water and just like, and you think water's going everywhere, and you're just doing this whole.
No,
I think Disneyland got it.
Disneyland after
We got it.
Disneyland got it perfect.
Yeah, we got it perfect. When you
Great
hold
job.
on to the front thing at Disneyland.
But I mean,
and
do you guys remember some of these bridges you drive over? I mean, they just put trees there.
Yeah, you're like, this is so safe right now. Like, what?
Yeah, that was like the
But, you know,
like
that's part of the
Kraken.
cool thing about still going to places like Africa, parts of the world that have been totally, they haven't been, you know, I don't know,
cultivated or
domesticated.
changed.
I don't know what the word is, but it's kind of, it's a little scary, it's a little risky, but in a way that's what makes it really special and fun, and that's why you want to go to these places so you can still do those things before they're gone. You know, it wouldn't be as fun if everything was paved roads.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and like there was little sidewalks and stuff when bridges were normal. I mean, that wouldn't be as fun. So you got to have those kind of things and these older cars and the different way of life, because that's what we're looking for.
Well,
Yeah,
also
it's
the-
everything you would expect, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you expect to go and drive across bridges that are made out of logs, like you said, and, you know, that's what you get. It's phenomenal. You don't see, you know, paved roads. It's not industrialized. It's really special.
We saw an elephant being eaten by lions, so we saw lions.
What about crossing over to a place and we had to put take our shoes off and dip them in this like dirt cloth? What was that?
Okay, so from one country to another, I think we went from Zambia, and then, that's right. And in order to be disinfected, so somebody had to get out of the car and walk through some muddy little sponge bath. Correct? While the car is driving next to us going, okay, good, keep going.
Good, you're clean,
And then, I mean, that was like the strangest
What
thing
was that
ever.
for? Foot in mouth or something? Or like,
Yeah, hoof
in mouth.
They had the most exotic food there. They had, and it was delicious. All of it was amazing. I tried everything. We didn't, but
I don't really.
everything was so phenomenal. I mean, from like anything from oxtail.
It's like going up to this huge barbecue area and they
Right.
have like, you know, the little signs with the animal's picture on there, and you got warthog and ostrich and
Impala, phenomenal. South Africa was kind of a different. It was definitely a different scene. We show up and it's this witch doctor. You walk in this little room, and it was so dark and musky. I don't even know what was
stuff
in there.
hanging everywhere,
And he
like
starts-
skins.
Yeah,
and
the
just
smell was it was insane. He had like incense going, and
No. I mean, I
he
took
goes
one
up to
foot
me
in and I
he
had
takes, I don't know what it was. It was like maybe like a horsetail, and he starts like, you know, blessing me maybe. It was insane. I think I first saw him when we were flying into South Africa.
you're driving along the freeway, and then all on the right hand side is just all tents and like
shacks,
just shacks,
little
kind
shacks,
of. And so you're like, what are we
many.
getting? Where are we going right now? So you know, you get off the freeway and you start going in, and it gets worse and worse and worse as you're going in. But they wanted to take us to this. It was like their first bed and breakfast that was built inside of this thing. And when I say built, I mean it was still
the district, yeah.
Yeah. But this lady, she has her family and stuff. It's this 2-story.
Yeah, it was 2 stories, and
still...
she took us upstairs, and there's like 3 bedrooms upstairs, and we didn't do much of a tour downstairs, but you know, it was just like really homey, and
she gets a lot of like backpackers and just people that kind of just want to experience it, just, you know, for the night or whatever. But
yeah, she said she kind of had like a younger crowd, right?
Yeah,
like,
she gets a lot of young
people who didn't want to stay in like a hostel doing, you know, like a trip abroad or whatever. You know, they stay there, and it's almost like a point of interest at this point. It's pretty cool.
It was really cool, and she, you know, she
had
makes
so much,
all the food.
She had so much, like, you know, pride for it, and it was really cool to see, you know, something like that.
She had just gotten internet in her place, I think, and she was really excited about that.
Nice.
Just going to South Africa and being in South Africa compared to East Africa, there's so many trees and vegetation and plants everywhere, not just the animals, birds, and I didn't think it was going to be as beautiful as it was. And the greatest thing I think for us, Warner and I, is having our whole family and being able to experience that amazing, amazing adventure with all of our children, which was the dream for us for, what, 32 years.
When it's long enough, then you pause it and you get some. Boom. See, boom.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
See, just behind the eye, there's that black line. It's a temporary gland that fills up when the testosterone level is very high. With that,
Is it leaking?
Huh?
Does it leak? Testosterone inside his ear.
Behind his eye.
Smile. You guys are cheating, eh? You guys are cheating. No cheating. No cheating.
Yeah, film that one there.
glad you're getting it along.
You are seriously? Good job.
Can you take out?
It's not allowed.
Seriously, these are so piddly.
Okay, enough now.
Okay.
Okay.
Twist. Look at that.
No. Okay. Peace.
Okay, truce. Okay, now we're done. For real. Seriously, seriously. No more.
What is it with her? Oh my gosh.